All right. Hi, everyone. Really nice to have you guys here. So for today's webinar, we're actually going to be going into SHOFCO's data journey with Dalgo. So SHOFCO is a Kenya-based NGO, and you'll hear more about what SHOFCO does and who they are from our panelists today. So we have three people from SHOFCO speaking to us today. Thank you for being here. We have Sheila Kodava, who's an IT officer with SHOFCO. And then Nicholas, who's a mail manager with SHOFCO, who works with a few different programs within SHOFCO. And then Alexander Gachihi, who's their head of technology, the director of technology. And all three of them will be telling you a little more about their perspectives with data and SHOFCO. And they all have different perspectives at different levels. So it should be an interesting session. And today, right before we get started though, there should be a poll that comes up on your screen right now. Stuti, if you could launch it. And we just want to hear a little bit about you guys, about what your data concerns are and what sector you guys are working in, just a little bit so it can help ground us in who we're talking to.
We've launched the poll. You should
Yeah.
see it in front of you.
Yeah. Request you guys to fill it out and we'll wait for responses to come in.
We've got around 5 responses so far, waiting for a couple more seconds for everyone else to share. If
Yeah.
you haven't already, you'll see the poll in front of your screen.
It should have popped up. Okay.
Okay, we'll end the poll now and I'll share the results, Pratiksha.
So there's quite a few people here who don't have a clear understanding of Dalgo yet. That's fine. Hopefully this session will clear that up for you. And now we'll proceed. So what the session today will be talking about essentially is data ownership when you're building out your data pipelines and how SHOFCO's made strides towards building data ownership. And you'll see the difference between where they were a few years ago versus where they are now. We'll also be doing a quick dashboard demo from SHOFCO side where they'll talk about how they're using their dashboards as well. And if you have any questions, any of you at any stage during the workshop, please feel free to share them in the chat. We'll have someone monitoring the chat who will call out questions that we'll then be happy to answer. We have 3 panelists here today who will be happy to answer any questions about SHOFCO's internal data journey as well. And with that bit of context set, let's move on to Sheila telling us a little bit about who SHOFCO is and what they're trying to do.
Thank you so much, Pratishka. Greetings to all who have been able to join this webinar. So, SHOFCO in full is a shining home for communities, and it started with a dream with a ball and 20 cents. So SHOFCO is the largest NGO movement in Kenya, spanning over 30 counties all across the country, addressing physical challenges, social and economic needs for the unprivileged groups or the low-income areas or slums in Kenya. So Shining Hope for Communities, in short SHOFCO, is a grassroots movement that catalyzes large-scale transformation in urban slums and has an has a holistic approach that disrupts survival mode by providing critical services, community advocacy platforms, and education and leadership development for women and girls. So SHOFCO as an organization is working or providing services in different sectors ranging from water, health, education, sustainable livelihoods, gender, justice, awareness. So in these different sectors that we're able to work in as SHOFCO, we have been able to reach and reach over 2.4 million people all across the country through the different programs and sectors that we undertake services in. And in our operational geography is basically low-income areas or slum areas across the country of Kenya. So as I've mentioned earlier, we have presence in over 30 counties in the country, just being in the underprivileged zones or areas, just trying to be able to uplift these people and these underprivileged groups. Yes. So the CEO of SHOFCO is Dr. Kennedy Odede, who is also the UN Nelson Mandela Prize laureate for 2025. So that's it from me about SHOFCO and what we do.
Thank you so much, Sheila. Yeah, they're a wonderful organization. I've been on ground and seen the work they do. It's pretty impressive. And having said that, little bit of context about who SHOFCO is as an organization, I want to have Nicholas come and speak a little bit now about some of their programs and the kind of work that they try to do on the ground and the kind of data they collect.
Thank you, Praktisha, and welcome everyone who has joined the webinar. So within SHOFCO, as mentioned
Nicholas, your voice isn't clear.
we have a number of sectors. We have a total. Can you hear me? Is it clear now?
It's clear now. Yeah.
Thank you. So as I was mentioning, so we have a total of 9 programs in SHOFCO. And our journey with Dalgo, we focused on 4 major programs. I'll just highlight what we do under each of these programs and mention the kind of data that we collect for this program. So under the gender program, our focus mainly is on the gender-based violence. So the interventions are around prevention, and also we have the responsibility. So the data we collect is around the prevention, intervention, and also the response. Under education program, we have a primary education program supporting younger girls. We also have a program for high schools and also for the university. We also have scholarship programs. For the WASH intervention, mainly it's on the supply of water. So we have infrastructure within the informal settlements where we treat water and supply to the community. Alongside that, we also do social behavior change on WASH-related practices. With sustainable livelihood, the focus is mainly on business and entrepreneurship scaling. So across all of these programs, we collect a bunch of data, a lot of it. So I can just mention, like, for example, for the gender program department, we are having a lot of data around, of course, tracking the number of GBV survivors that we have supported. And also just trying to link at what stage is their support in. Our target for the next few years, we are targeting to, of course, reach out to a total of 250,000 girls with life skill training through what we call Right of Children clubs. Also targeting around 100, supporting up to 100 GBV survivors. So we have a lot of data that we track on these programs. Can move to the next.
Mm-hmm.
So before our journey with Dalgo, what happened was that we had a lot of data sitting in various places. So these data will be sitting in multiple tools. So we had CommCare, we had Kobo, some data was sitting in a system called MobiWater. That's for the WASH program, Google Sheets, and even Papers. So it was really a big challenge to us in terms of trying to generate frequent and periodic reporting. So, of course, we do internal reporting on a weekly basis, and then we have those monthly reporting, quarterly and biannual reporting to our donors. So then there's always a challenge and need to ensure that we are able to frequently report on a timely manner. So before Dalgo, we'll really take a lot of time in terms of trying to clean this data, merge them, report them. So for the program team, they will take up to 4 hours just trying to collect the different informations, while the mail team will now sit up to a whole day just trying to really put this data together in a way that it can be consumed.
Yeah, that's very laborious. I'll move on to the next slide. And so essentially what Nicholas has given us is context on how time consuming it can be when you're running a large program to not have some sort of automation process. And Alexander, who's in leadership in SHOFCO, will talk a little bit more about the thought process of leadership behind how to adopt data, right? Starting from 2022. Alexander?
Thanks, Pratiksha. So with all these problems that Nicholas talked about, and these kind of challenges, which are like a lot of manual work to clean, merge, and prepare reports, taking a lot of time to be able to do donor reporting, and not being able to do decision making based on data quickly, we started to think of where do we go next from this manual work, and we saw there is a need for automation and having a way to deliver these insights very quickly. And therefore, since 2022, we started at exploring options. Next slide.
Before we move on to the next slide, actually, I'm curious. Could we see a show of hands in the people who feel like they have similar challenges in their NGOs right now, where they're collecting a lot of data, but they're not really sure how to analyze it. And the process is just messy and time consuming. I don't. Are you able to see the participant list, Tuti?
I'll share, Pratiksha.
Okay. But there, I'm sure there's people who relate to the exact same thing that Alexander's been talking about. It's universal sectoral problems. So we'll take a look at how SHOFCO approached it. Yes, Alexander, take it away.
So in 2023, we started an attempt on solving this problem. And what we came up with was an infrastructure rooted based in digital transformation, and the tools we were using were CommCare, which is a data collection platform. We had a data engineering layer that had Airbyte and DBT. I know maybe some people within the audience may not know them, but that's one of the middle layer we had. And then for our dashboarding, we were using Power BI. So some of the challenges we encountered with this initial infrastructural attempt were it required a lot of deep and high expertise to maintain it, and at that time we didn't have internal capacity to be able to do that. That meant we had to rely a lot on external consultants. Because it was something new, adoption was also very slow, and it could only fit very few of our use cases. As Nicholas mentioned, we have 9 programs, we have other activities that we do. So even though we had onboarded this new solution, it couldn't fit all the use cases that we are dealing with within SHOFCO. The third item is on the pipelines. So because we have multiple sources of data, it meant with the current solution that we had to do different connections. So if it is Google Sheets, if it's a different application, if it's CommCare, if it's something else, we had like to do multiple connections and integrations, which was causing some issues as we scale our programs. And then lastly, we were using Power BI, which with which we created dashboards that were more relevant to leaders, but the field teams that were actually on ground couldn't get a lot of insights from them. And then because we are an NGO, we are very resource constrained, and Power BI was giving us very high licensing costs. Next slide. So again, we started looking for options as we scale. Um, we were therefore, on one hand, we have these many systems um, that we have to integrate with multiple ways. We have a very high cost solution, and still field teams couldn't see what they needed to, even though maybe leaders could. So we chose Dalgo because one, it could act as a bridge for those different systems. We had CommCare, we had Google Sheets, we had different APIs, we had different program dashboards. Dalgo would act as a bridge between all of those. It allowed us to create different dashboards and insights for different teams. Leadership could be interested with aggregated information across our programs. M&E could want to maybe track impact per program or sub activities. And then the field teams probably want to be able to track their day-to-day activities, how many surveys they have done, how many are of a particular category, etc. Again, it was very cost effective. It's open source. Uh, and the Dalgo team has been one of the most awesome teams. They provide a lot of support as we continue using this platform, and they do so at very affordable prices. And then lastly, we are using Superset as a replacement for Power BI, and that allows us to continue building these many dashboards that we want, but with no license restrictions. As I said, we are also resource constrained, and we want to make sure we are still effective and efficient, but at a low cost approach.
Mhm.
Next slide, Patricia.
Yeah. So thanks, Alexander, for that summary. And essentially, we got to see how SHOFCO's data journey, their priorities and their needs evolved over time, eventually landing them to consider and switch over to Dalgo, which was in the second half of 2024, and that's where we came in. So I'm a data consultant with with Dalgo, and for those of you, because I saw in the poll that there's some people here who are not at all familiar with what Dalgo as a platform is, I wanted to give a little bit of an introduction. So Dalgo essentially exists to make data pipelining and centralization really easy. So no matter where your data is sitting, like in SHOFCO's case, they have data in CommCare and custom APIs like MobiWater and Sustack, in Google Sheets. So all of that data can flow into one place through Dalgo, because Dalgo can connect to all of them and pull data into one place, which then becomes very easy for us to clean up and transform in an automated fashion, which Dalgo also facilitates. You put in the one-time effort of defining some business logic for transformation, and then that'll automatically happen to every new bit of data that streams in through the data collection sources. And then finally, Dalgo can connect to any sort of dashboarding tool you want to use. In their case, they're going with Superset. And then build charts and reports, which can then update as frequently as you need them to. So that's kind of what Dalgo facilitates and facilitated for SHOFCO as well. That kind of centralization and visualization on whatever platform they wanted to use. And what they ended up going with was Superset, which is a native option that's integrated with Dalgo. And so we began our partnership with SHOFCO last year, like I mentioned. And usually we have a set process that we follow when we're building out the data pipeline. And I just want to talk through that really quickly, because this is something that I hope could be useful across NGOs as well, in terms of a way to think about things, right? The first process that we usually begin with is what we internally call the requirements gathering process. So for us, what does this mean? It's a way for us to understand what the priorities are of different stakeholders in an NGO and how they map to the data that's being collected. So what we'll do is we'll go ask caseworkers, MEL team, leadership, all these different people at different levels in an organization, what are the key questions that they want answered. So if they are preparing reports, if they are having meetings, what are the questions that they need answers to? and at what frequency. And we kind of get that information from them and do the work of mapping it to the data that's being collected. So suppose they have a key question like in the gender program, how many GBV cases do we deal with on a monthly basis? And what's the month-on-month rise in the number of cases? Or what are the outcomes of court cases? How many criminals were actually sentenced? Right? These might be key questions they have. What we then do is go look at the data that they're collecting and then see, okay, from this particular form or from this particular sheet, we can get the information we need to answer this question. And this mapping is what we call requirements gathering. And following that, once we figured out what data is important for us to be able to answer the questions these people have, we then connect Dalgo to those data sources and pull all the information into Dalgo, where it'll then go and get stored inside a warehouse, a data warehouse. And once that data has been pulled in, that's when we put in transformations or the business logic to process and clean the data. So this again is very dependent on what they tell us they need the dashboards to answer for them. And then, for example, suppose they need the conviction numbers for criminals, then we'd write code to be able to process that number from messy, unformatted data and then store them in clean tables. And once we have those clean tables, we can then go to the visualization stage. So in the case of SHOFCO, that would be building dashboards on Superset. So we'll build different dashboards for caseworkers, for leadership, for donors, for whatever level that they want the analysis to happen for, with the metrics that they want answers to. And finally, the last step that we like to do to tie everything together is something we'll do to solve the problem that Alexander mentioned in the earlier slide, which was that these things usually require a level of expertise to be able to execute, and not even just execute, but also manage. Because over time, as programs scale, pipelines might also need to evolve with the programs, which means that NGOs would need to have internal capacity to be able to do that. So what we did is we gave them training, and Sheila, who's over here with us on the panel, will talk a little bit more about this later. But we give them training and upskilling so that they're capable of managing their own data pipelines. And that's where a big part of data ownership also comes in for them. And then finally, once the upskilling and training process for NGO employees is done, we do feedback to improve data collection in the first place. So something I've noticed as a consultant, and I'm sure most of you in the audience would be able to relate to as well, is that when most of the caseworkers and the MEL team's bandwidth is going towards data cleaning and processing, there's not much time left for incremental improvements of your processing, because all the focus is on, oh, the donor report needs to go out next month or next week. So what this whole process has allowed us to do is it then frees up time for us to actually go back and examine, okay, this is how we've set up our data collection systems, and now we have dashboards and we know what they look like. So is this actually accurate, or is there a better representation of data that we can have, which might mean we'll need to go in and change some of our forms, change some of our sheets. But we know to do that now that we have the entire pipeline set up and the bandwidth to go back and re-examine every step. So this whole process is cyclical and iterative. And this is generally what we try to do with our NGOs as well, and what we did with SHOFCO. And now that I've provided that little bit of context, I'll ask Nicholas to come back in and talk about the impact this engagement has had on program and the program team and caseworkers.
Thank you, practitioner. So on the screen on the right-hand side, so before Dalgo, this the process that we undertook for us to produce our reports. You can see the different sources of data that we have there. It's not limited to only these ones. We have others. So this is what we were doing before Dalgo. So it meant that on a monthly basis, we were to generate reports, and we could not act in real time. So it was a very big challenge. We were not able to do things in real time because the data, we have to wait until the end of the week or the end of the month for us to go into the system, download, clean, analyze, and so it was not really real time. And then the other challenge was it was a bit manual because there was no automation You have to get into the different sources, download them, merge them. And then, of course, that also comes with risk, because when you are doing merging and so on, you run at risk of course, having. That's when you are doing that. So when we are doing most of this merging, we were doing most of those analyses, put them in Excel sheets for the analysis, which is a bit fragile and also very hard to maintain because they sit in different places. It could be on my desktop or in a certain folder somewhere that cannot be accessed by the next person, the next program person. So the reports were also, there were no live dashboards. The reports were a bit very manual, prepared manually. So you had to access the document itself. And again, they were not interactive. So whatever you see on the report is what you consume. If you wanted to slice the data to different disaggregation, let's say by different region, by gender, and so on, you are not able to do that. So if a program person needed now those other information, they had to reach out to us to ask. Now, you had said that there's improved mental health. It's 90% among people that maybe receive counseling. The question will be, how did the men and the women fare on? So they have to get back to us. We have to redo the analysis for them too. So that was also a really big challenge. Next. So after Dalgo, now on the right-hand side, you can see now we have the different sources, but now this is what we call now this single source of truth. Now everything getting into one space. It doesn't matter how you are collecting it, be it in Google Sheet, be it in MobiWater, CommCare, Kobo, it doesn't matter. All that information is pulled into a Dalgo, into the Dalgo. So it means all data is sitting in one place. So if Alexander wants access to any of there, you'll be able to get it. If it's Sheila, you'll be able to get it, me and any other. So it is sitting in one place. So from Dalgo, of course, the first bit is now the data ingestion, pulling it from the different sources into Dalgo. And then there's now the transposition. So during the transformation, the cleaning is done to ensure that everything is correct. So if there are duplicates, they are removed and so on. But then after that, then now within the pipeline, we set an automation that runs. So we are able to, you can decide how frequently you want this data to run or to sync. So like for us, it is 3 times in a day. You can increase the frequency to maybe 4 times or 6 times, or you can decide whether it's weekly, depending on the kind of data that you are handling. Now then, after that, then now there's a very clear visualization that is done through the superset dashboard that is automated. So if, for example, now they needed how men are performing in terms of mental health improvement, they don't need to get to us. So that information will be updated in real time, and they're able to slice that by the different disaggregation that is needed. So that's something that we have been able to do, and it's really helping the program team in terms of getting the data that they need.
So,
this is just a visual. Yeah, so the previous slide was just like, there was just a time on how much time we are saving when before and after our journey with Dalgo. Yeah.
And now I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Nicholas, would you mind just quickly sharing your screen and just briefly talking through some of the dashboards that you have for the gender program?
Yeah, so this our gender program, the overview dashboard. So this is very helpful to the male team and to the leadership. So this aggregate all the data for our gender program, and we have very many terms for different KPIs. Like here I'm on the community engagement, we have these other graphs, so many. So these are a number of graphs that we have for the gender program. And this data, the good thing with it is that when, let's say you want just report for a certain period of time, let's say last week or last month or from the beginning of the year, you can just filter using this time. So you can indicate from what time you need the data to now. You can further slice it by county. So there are administrative locations. So if you want for very specific region, you can go in and filter. You can do it by site. So sites basically are our offices. And then we can do it by also the caseworker, for example, who is handling what case. So if you do the filter, then it's now a bit interactive. That's what we are saying. Like previously, our data was not interactive because there were reports. So we just report to them, or we have reached out to 49K Rock Club participants. But now, under the Rock Club, when we have people, different caseworkers that have been given various targets, how is their performance? So previously they had to get back to it, but right now they just get in here, do the filter, and then they'll be able to see how each one of them is performing across the different KPIs. And this is very critical in ensuring that, of course, accountability and measurement of course, the performance of the different program team member. So the dashboard I'm showing you is more of an aggregated one, but now we have a very specific dashboard for now operations at the ground, the day-to-day work. So I'm not going to project that because it has some identifiable information for some of our clients, but basically that other dashboard is for case workers in the gender program. So basically when they log into that dashboard, they're able to see, for example, if we talk about cases in court, they're able to see how many cases are in court, how many, the conviction rate, we are able to tell that the cases that have been closed, and they're able to see the details, the case number, the case summaries, and so on. They're also able to tell how long these cases have stayed open within the system so that they're able to make follow-ups on those specific cases. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Nicholas. And just for some additional context, we've implemented something called row level security on the caseworker dashboard. So what that means is, suppose you have 40 different caseworkers. If one of them logs in, they'll only be able to see their own cases on that dashboard. They won't be able to see everybody else's, which also enables us to protect the privacy of the beneficiaries, while making sure that leadership still has visibility into everything they need to have visibility into. I'm going to share my screen again and get back to the presentation. And now Nicholas is just going to weigh in a little bit on the challenges that they've had with adoption and uptake of the dashboards and how they've dealt with it within SHOFCO to build data ownership, even among the field staff.
Yeah, so while we were building these dashboards, of course, we have experienced some challenges. And one of the key challenges is around perception by the team of this is an additional workload, because they have to get into the dashboard and put this, so they feel like there's an additional workload. Of course, we have also experienced low usability by the team members, and also some feedback of maybe there's complexity in the dashboard around maybe some of the sense of the graphs and so on. So one key thing that I will say in ensuring that we increase uptake of dashboard is one thing that we have learned is when you are building this dashboard, you just need to ensure that you integrate it into the existing workflow. So you don't create a parallel out of the way from what they usually do. So when you integrate it within the workflow, then they'll not see it as an additional kind of thing. So they'll see it as something that helps them, rather than something that increases the work that they do. The other thing that we have done to increase uptake of this dashboard is ensure that from the beginning we co-create with our customers. So our customers in this case are the program team members, could be the leadership, of course, getting their views. What needs do they need? So like Patricia did mention, like we'll do a mapping and see what actually they need on the dashboard. So when you do that, then chances of the uptake being higher is there. But if you don't address their needs, they're most likely they're not going to use the dashboard. So collaboration is very key. Number two, simple designs. So on the dashboard I just showed, most of those graphs, you could see like most of them were just simple pie charts, bar graphs, and just block numbers. No fancy kind of design. So this really helps them understand the data without really having a lot of taking a lot of time to interpret. And then also having a proper drill down, being able to break down the numbers that they want per caseworker, per region, per ward, gender, and so on. Leadership endorsement is also very key. So ensuring that when we are building this, so when you collaborate with the leadership in building this, of course, there'll be that ownership. And when leadership are making reference to this dashboard, then the other program team member will most likely uptake it much faster than when the leaders do not endorse it. So it's very key that the leadership endorse it, because when you are reporting on a certain thing, they make reference. Let me check on the dashboard. If it's not matching, then they ask questions and then ensuring that there's a complete feedback loop. So when we build these dashboards, of course, there'll be feedbacks being provided. I'm not understanding this number. This graph looks very complex and so on. So when that happens, we need to ensure that you address it. You look into the issue, get back to them, make the changes that are required so that they feel like the dashboard belongs to them. Because if they provide feedback and they are not addressed, it reach a point when they feel like, I don't think this is really our dashboard because our problems are not being addressed. Even give them the feedback, we don't get the response, they're not making the changes as we are requesting and so on. So that feedback is very key in ensuring that there is uptake of the dashboards.
Yeah. This is something that actually I think SHOFCO did really well with the dashboards that they rolled out. Initially, when we realized that the caseworkers weren't feeling that sense of ownership over the dashboards, what we decided was to properly document every bit of feedback that we got from them into a sheet that they had been given access to. We put in our own comments, tracked the status, kept them updated on the feedback that they gave us. So they got the feeling that what they gave us was actually being acted on, was being implemented. That did give them that sense of, okay, this dashboard is being customized for me to use, which really did help with uptake. Yeah. Moving on to the next slide now. Thank you so much for that context, Nicholas. It's very useful to hear from someone on the ground about how they dealt with things. Now I'd like to request Alexander to come back and speak a little bit about the benefits that these dashboards have given the different people in SHOFCO across the organization and how it's helped them and changed the way they work.
Thank you, Patricia. So through all that journey, all the way from 2022 to now, and even through those challenges that Nicholas was speaking about, we still have seen benefits out of this process and out of these dashboards. So for leadership, they are able to have a view of the day-to-day operations of the programs. They are also able to see only the statistics they are interested in, mostly aggregations of across all their programs. For the mail and program teams, they are able now to spot problems before they emerge or even before they become big, because now they have a custom dashboard where they are able to track things that are important to them. There are no dependency. There is little and reduced dependency on manual updates. So now, as soon as data is collected in CommCare, there is a pipeline that takes it all the way to the dashboard. So there is little manipulation in between. And then for the caseworkers, they are able to track their cases in real time. How many surveys did I do? What do those cases entail? How many of those are resolved? How many cases have I been able to close every month? Which is important for them to be able to report on their work. And now we are also able to provide standardized reports to our donors in like very low turnaround time as opposed to what we had previously. Next slide, Patricia. So even with these benefits, there is still more work to be done. Nicholas has spoken a bit about adoption. Um, it's a new way of working. We moved from manual. We are now doing data collection with these apps. We are now using dashboards for reporting. So this kind of a change is being um, accepted in different speed across programs, but there's a lot of goodwill within our team. So it's just being patient with them and then taking them through this journey together. Um, Data quality, as you might imagine, we know automation can't fix bad data basically. Um, and because we didn't have a lot of stop gaps prior, so in a manual system, you just have a form or a paper thing that you are just filling out. in a Google Sheets, anybody can edit, can tweak your data. But now that you're using these new data collection platforms, we are trying to improve the quality of our data to reduce errors. That can mean more validation in our forms, but can also mean more training for our frontline workers on how best to think of data quality at source as they are collecting it. And then, even though we are collecting all data into Dalgo, SHOFCO is still very expansive. There are some use cases that we still haven't integrated into this one single source of truth for our program data. So we are looking into that. How do we position ourselves to have all our program data in one place? That reduces duplication across the different programs, reduces the complexity of either analyzing or processing that data, and will improve our reporting as a whole within SHOFCO. Next slide.
Thanks for Alexander for that summarization of where SHOFCO is at now. Now I'd actually like to request Sheila, who's an IT officer at SHOFCO, to speak a little bit about the training and upskilling that Dalgo provided for SHOFCO. So essentially, we wanted to build internal capacity within SHOFCO as well. And we underwent a training process, and Sheila was part of the 3-member team that I trained. And I'd request her to share a little bit about that.
Thank you so much, Pratishka, once more. So, as from Dalgo, we were able to undertake training. From Dalgo team, Pratishka, who trained. There were 3 of us. I was one member of that training cohort, and they were able to take us through different data engineering concepts and just give us over 40 hours of training to build our capacity to better understand our pipeline as SHOFCO staff members, and to even know how to troubleshoot issues when they come about through the pipeline and in data cleaning and other duties. So the trainings were virtual and also in person, and they were very engaging. So through those trainings, what I can say for myself is that we were able to be taken through understanding of basic data engineering concepts, things like SQL, and just be able to understand as a person who will be able to who is supposed to be able to support the organization in data needs. What am I able to do? How do I troubleshoot errors when they come about? How am I able to actually do the data task myself, seeing as to we have consultants, and what if these consultants are no longer with the organization? Just having that capacity to be able to do the data related tasks. So from the training by Dalgo, I can confidently say that I now understand the data pipeline. I understand what data feeds into what point in the data pipeline, and what contributes to the overall pipeline. I understand what data feeds into what, and how to ensure that all the data is coming into the pipeline. So when we were doing the trainings with Pratishka, we were able to do various tasks with one of the programs here at SHOFCO, which is the SL program. So while doing this task and while engaging we were able to understand how to troubleshoot pipeline issues like sync failures and stuff, and things like missing data, and just be able to troubleshoot things like failed DBT tests. I don't want to be too technical, but what I can say I got from that experience is that this, compared to this year and last year, those are things that I wasn't able to do last year. So it has really built my capacity to not just be an IT officer, but to be a point of support for the data team and the mail teams. When they have challenges now, they can come to us to be able to start the troubleshooting process rather than going directly to the consultant. So we appreciate that. And yes,
Yeah,
we
I
appreciate
myself
that.
am. Yeah, thank you so much, Sheila. Sorry, did you want to say anything else?
Just to finish up, I can say that through the training also, we're able to ensure that the dashboards are accurate for donor reporting, and just be able to emphasize how the M&E team here at SHOFCO is now believes in or is confident with the internal SHOFCO capacity to be able to handle data-related tasks when they come in to us before they go to the Dalgo team. So we are able to assist with that. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you
I think
for
that's
that.
it for me.
Yeah, I myself have seen a big difference in the way I work with SHOFCO after the training and upskilling that we did. Previously, whenever there was any small issue, even that was noticed, anyone in SHOFCO would then have to reach out to me and I would have to look into it. So many issues now, they don't even come to me because if they go to one of the people who were trained, they can just investigate and solve it themselves, which has been really nice even for us to see. And now, getting to the conclusion, I'd like Alexander to speak a little bit more about what they have planned for the future in SHOFCO with regards to their data.
Yeah, coming off of that slide from Sheila, very happy to see internal teams being upskilled. Um, through this journey from 2023, 2024, 2025, we have been able to onboard some programs, but not all. So even though our dream is to like have that one single source of truth for all our program data, we want to do it progressively. So into the near future, the remaining months of 2025, we are onboarding the rest of the programs into Dalgo. That's our SHOFCO urban network, our libraries. We have a cooperative, a financial cooperative that you also want to onboard. And then looking into 2026, we are looking for more automation. And now AI is a huge thing coming up. We are trying to see how much we can leverage into AI to be more automated so that we don't have a lot of engineering in our middle layer. But then also, how do we engage our beneficiaries after enrolling them to our programs? So that's what is in for us in the near future.
Thank you for that, Alexander. And now would be a great time for any of you to ask questions. SHOFCO has had a very long data journey and they'll be happy to answer any questions anyone in the audience has. So you can either unmute yourself and ask, or you could just put it in the chat and someone will call it out. And if there's any interest you guys have in, maybe talking about Dalgo with us or understanding a bit more about how to build dashboards and pipelines, you can reach out to us as well. Sthiti, are you taking a look at the chat? Can you see if
Yes.
any questions have come in?
Yeah, we have two interesting questions from Vairutu, who asks, are some of the reports simple enough to be shared with communities at the lowest level? Let's take that first and then I'll share the second.
Okay. So does anyone from SHOFCO want to answer that question about whether you guys have thought about sharing reports with the actual communities you work with? Is that something that would be useful for them?
Yeah, so I can come in there. So from our dashboard, so we don't share the dashboard as it is to the community, but rather the program team members, because they're the one that are in the community. So it's not more of like mail sharing it with the community, but for the program team members that are able to get into the dashboard and then narrow down to the specific area that they need to report on, they can do a very quick, they are able to do export of maybe just a bit or the number or a table. So you're able to just export what you need specifically and share. So usually what has been happening is for the different program members, depending on the audience, they're able to abstract this data and share in various forums that they are in. Because sometimes that question that are asked, they meet different people that ask question, and when that question is either able just to get into the dashboard, quickly pull what is in the dashboard and share in real time that moment.
Okay, so just to make sure that I understood that clearly, there's no reports that are prepared for the purpose of sharing with the community. But generally, when people in the community have questions, you go to the dashboard, find the answer, and then just export the chart or the data to give to the community then and there.
So that is when there are questions, but they're also structured. For example, with the WASH program, so they have like committee forums where they meet so that they're able to update the community. For example, if there's an infrastructure that is currently not working for the WASH, so even before they go to those forums, they know. So they're able to update them. So this is our visual map. This other region, all of these other queues are currently not working because of this maybe there was a fire, demolition, or anything. So like when they go to those farms, they can prepare ahead of time. So it's not like us sharing the dashboard, but using the data that they pull from the dashboard and share it with the community.
Got it. All right. Thanks for that answer, Nicholas. Are there any other questions, maybe a follow-up?
Yes. So we have two questions. One is, I think, a follow-up to what Nicholas said, which is who's trained to do the data collection and analysis? And the second question that Prashant has is what are the primary tools for data collection at a large scale, at such a large scale? And does the dashboard pick the data from the different data collection tools directly?
Okay. So we'll go one question at a time. So first, I think Nicholas would be the right person to answer this too. Who are the people who've been trained to do the data collection, and how have they been trained, and what tools do they use?
Nicholas, you're on mute.
Sorry, I was speaking on mute. So the data collection is done by the program team themselves. I think it's a great thing because they own the data. So previously what happened was if the data was sitting on paper, they will call in data clerks to do the entry. And then when there's a discrepancy, like we'll not know where the discrepancy is coming from. So currently the program team members doing the data collection. For example, in the gender program, we have the caseworkers. So when they're handling the cases, they're able to update the different forms in the data collection platform themselves. So it's done by the program team members. So they're just trained on how the data collection should be done. And then in the second question was on, remind me?
The tools, which tools are being used for data collection
So
across SHOFCO?
So the data collection tools that we currently use is we use CommCare for our gender work. We use also CommCare for our SL work. For WASH, we have softwares. So they're more of automated, like we have smart meters relaying how much water, volume of water is passing. We have what is called a SASTEC at the kiosk, also relaying the water. And we also have, I think for WASH, those are the main ones. So it's a combination of CommCare and other software. So all of this is just pulled into the Dalgo. Yeah.
So to answer the last part of your question about does Dalgo connect to all of these data sources directly? So a little bit of an explanation about that process. So like Nicholas mentioned, for some applications, the data is in CommCare, there's some data in Google Sheets. And for the WASH program specifically, there are some custom APIs which they use to collect the data, like SUSTEC and Mobi Water, for example, are like smart meters. They do automatic water collection for how much water has been treated and processed and dispersed. So Dalgo connects to these data sources using a tool called Airbyte. So Airbyte is the tool that Dalgo uses to connect to these sources. And Airbyte's a great tool because when you have custom APIs come in, like Mobi Water and SUSTEC, that their WASH program uses, for example, are custom tools, right? We weren't able to find any pre-existing solutions for connecting to them and pulling the data. But Airbyte makes it very easy for us to write a no-code custom connector, which can then go in, pull in the data from their API and get it into Dalgo. And when the data comes into Dalgo, Dalgo facilitates storing that data inside a data warehouse that's owned by SHOFCO itself. So that whole process is facilitated by Dalgo. Is there any other aspect of that that you want clarity on? I could definitely answer.
Prashant, does that answer your question?
Yes, sorry. I was trying to unmute. Yeah.
All right, cool. And anything else, Titi?
We're good, Pratiksha.
Okay. All right. So, if you guys are curious to learn a little bit more about what we do, then you can take a look at our case studies as well, which are all online. And we do more of these webinars. Some of them are, NGO spotlight webinars like this one, where we talk about our engagement with our NGO clients like SHOFCO, for example. But some of them are also just purely educational webinars, like how to manage your data pipelines and stuff. So you can attend those as well. And we also have a newsletter that we send out that you can sign up for, and would recommend doing that. And you can also look into some of the amazing work that SHOFCO's been doing in Kenya. I mean, when I went to Nairobi and I was at the in Kibera, which is one of the areas within Nairobi where they operate, like SHOFCO was everywhere, their wash program, their health clinics, their schools, like the kind of work they do is incredible in its scale and its impact. So it was great for us to be able to showcase the work you're doing and how you're managing your data. And if you guys have any follow-up questions, feel free to email us. We will get back to you with answers and clarifications.